morning, Jim. How are
Morning,
you?
Monday.
Hiya, thank you for coming on and offering to do this wee testimonial. And it's a testimonial with a twist because you didn't actually train as a celebrant with Celebrant Training Scotland. We'll hear a wee bit about that in a minute. But as I was saying to you a moment ago before we come on, one of the things that I'm going to be offering is online one-to-one training for those celebrants that, for whatever reason, can't come along to the face-to-face training. And I thought because of your experience and what we did together that you might be able to give people into a wee bit of an insight into what they can expect. So we've known each other for many years. We've known each other via Toastmasters and via the Professional Speakers Association. But can you just give anybody that might be listening to the wee video a wee bit of background as to how we came to work together?
Sure. Thanks very much, Lindy. So the background and the context to this. So we've got very good friends. Scottish who emigrated to America about over 20 years ago, and we've known them for about 35 years. They lived in Atlanta up until this year in Georgia, and they have two kids, Rebecca, and myself and my wife are Rebecca's godparents. And we were at her wedding in Georgia 4 years ago. And Rebecca and her husband TJ had asked me to do a reading at the wedding. So a fantastic ceremony, brilliant, wonderful, really enjoyed the whole thing. And a real privilege to do that. So 4 years on, and their son Sam's getting married to Stephanie. And they're all in Georgia at the time. And they didn't really want a kind of really religious service. They just wanted a kind of fairly simple, simple. They just didn't want a religious service really, and they were trying to figure out who could do that. So not quite sure why, but my name came up in the conversation, and they came over last Christmas, not Christmas just past, but the year before. And the plan was that we were all going to meet up as we usually do, and during the curry and stuff that they were having in Glasgow, they were going to ask me. But I was ill. I had a real bad dose of the flu that year, and couldn't go out at all. So I didn't even get to meet any of them. So the wedding was planned for August 2019 in North Georgia, and I got a phone call in kind of late February, I think it was early March, from Sam, and it was Uncle Jim, because they called me Uncle. He said, "Hey, we had a question to ask you about the wedding," and I thought, "Oh, he's going to ask me to do a reading, you know." And he said, "Well, it's actually quite a big favour." And I thought, "Oh, he's going to ask me to do 2 readings." And he said, "No, we'd like you to marry us." So I was absolutely speechless for about 5 seconds. And as soon as I regained my composure, of course I said yes, and think twice about it. Huge honour to be asked, and had no hesitation in saying yes. And the next thought that popped into my mind was, I need to speak to Lindy. And that was a bit presumptuous on my part, perhaps, but I figured that you'd at least be able to point me in the right direction. And I think it was just towards the end of March or early April that I contacted you, and I think we met up at your place. And you just said to me, "What do you need to know?" And the interesting thing was that you talked through a variety of things with me. Most notably of which for me was, asking simple questions like, well, what type of wedding do they want? And I had no idea of really where to start with all that. But you made that really clear and simple for me. And you also gave me copies of a variety of your materials that you've got in terms of how you plan and the questions to ask the couple. And, I suppose you could look at that, and I mean, you read through the questions, some of them seem quite obvious and some of them seem quite simple. But as time went on, and as I actually got to the wedding and did everything and got all the feedback later on, I really realised that information that you gave me, which not only had just structure elements to it, but also just the informational elements and how to get useful information from the couple and make sure that they were comfortable with everything. It wasn't just that was your training, and it wasn't just your knowledge; it was your experience, and you can't buy that. That's the real value in there. So you've gained that over several years doing what it is you do, plus all your previous speaking experience, and that was just completely, that was just so invaluable. So I planned the wedding, various obviously conversations with the couple, extracting information from them. And I think we exchanged a couple more emails and things like that over the period of time. But you'd given me such good information up front that, quite frankly, I didn't need much more. And towards the end, before we flew out to the States, the other thing that I was interested in were the rituals, because that was also in your information pack, and I talked through that with Sam and Stephanie. So they were quite keen on a couple of those, and I kind of, nailed down 2 of those. I was going to do the hand fasting, and I was going to give them a quake. They didn't know about that. That was a wee gift. And you'd done a video of the hand fasting, and that again was really valuable, because you'd think it was something that was really simple, but when you actually got to do that in a formal ceremony kind of setting, it's amazing the things that can go wrong. So, I practiced that myself, and then I practiced it with Sam and Stephanie, and I showed them, I took them through your video, and so they were great, and we worked through that, and it was really worthwhile to have practiced that up front. And then the quake was, you use a different quake from a lot of the ones you get in the shops. I think you've got a special local supplier, and I think it's a normal kind of pewter quake, but it's got a wooden bowl casing on the underside, so it's got that real kind of earthy, more sort of, to me it just felt more Scottish, to be honest, than just a pewter quake.
Handmade in Ayrshire.
Made in Ayrshire as well, and it was a bit of a risk job actually towards the end, because we were flying out, I can't remember, on the Thursday, and I think I arrived here on the Wednesday. So, but again, that was used at the end of the ceremony, and I brought in a wee bit of Scottishness there, because although the kids were born out in the States, the kids, Sam and Rebecca, were born in the States. They're huge. I mean, they've been over here loads of times to see all the grandparents and all the family and friends. So they're real. I mean, the big Scotland fans. Your map up behind you. They've been all over the place, and Sam was really keen to get a lot of Scottishness into the ceremony. So the quaich, it was Vault Iron Brew produced at one point, and so it went down really well. And it was a big do. There must have been about 80 or 100 folks there. It was this beautiful resort up in North Georgia, Barnsley Manor or something it was called, some old Italian villa that had been burnt out years ago, and they built a new resort around it. Gorgeous gardens, and of course it was open air. It was so hot that day. I was fortunate, as were the bride and groom, because we were in shade. About the only 3 were. But it was a good 80 around people there, and I think probably the one thing that I was conscious of was my accent, because speaking to some of the folks down, because Atlanta's St George's quite a southern state, and the accents there are very different. So when I was speaking to people, 1 or 2 of them were sort of really trying to tune into what we were saying. So I'm sure some of that got lost, but the feedback I got after it was just fantastic. Immediately after the ceremony, people were coming on just saying, Jim, that was brilliant. You made it so personal, because there's a lot of personal stories in there. And the most important thing for me, I didn't really care about anybody else. All I wanted was that for Sam and Stephanie, it's what they wanted, and they were absolutely delighted with it. And as it turned out, I guess I like it too. So
that's great. And your photographs were beautiful. You sent me some photographs of the hand fasting, and you looked as if you'd done it 1,000 times. It was just lovely. So what was the best part of the ceremony for you, do you think?
What was the best part? Gee.
Is that not the best question? Because the whole ceremony...
Not the best part. I remember standing at the stairs before Sam and I went up. We were just slightly below the grass area that the guests were all sitting on. And I remember just standing there just immediately before we went up and thinking, this is crazy, I can't believe this is happening, And, you mentioned Toastmasters and Professional Speaking Association, so, I've done a bit of speaking over the years, not a huge amount, but, and I was surprised at how comfortable I was. But I think a lot of that, I mean, obviously the speaking experience helped, but I think the fact that I'd had that structure that you'd given me, and, I got all the information from Sam and Stephanie, and it had all come together, and it was set up for success, basically. And I think that's probably an important factor for all your the people that you work with, the trainees and stuff. So the preparation was just really important. And then, I mean, the whole service was just fantastic, to be honest. Really loved it.
I heard there was a wee story at the end.
Yeah, well, again, you know, it's funny how people comment on things. I mean, I obviously I was a bit nervous, not overly, but when the wedding was finished, we were in having the dinner and everything, and things were, you know, the evening was getting a bit quieter, and people were heading off. And there was a guy there who was a pastor. He was married to one of the friends of the family. And I'd actually met him 4 years before when I was at Rebecca's wedding, because I remember somebody saying, "Oh, you know, this is can't remember the chap's name, but you know, this is such and such. He's a pastor." And he made his way to our table for some reason. It was just, you know, I was finishing off one of my drinks, and he says to me, "Oh," he said, "Jim, fabulous service. Really enjoyed that." He said, "Just terrific." He said, "How many weddings have you done?" And I said, "One, including today." And he was, "You're joking, you know?" And I said, "Well, how about yourself?" And he said, "Well, I've done 7," which I think I was more surprised at his 7 than he was at my 1. I think the way things operate out in the States is very different. You know, I think pretty much anyone can marry anyone, certainly in Georgia, because the states all have their own different laws on this. And I'm not sure actually that, just like, you know, here, like priests and ministers here, we often traditionally would expect if somebody was getting married that it's a priest or a minister. And these days, of course, it's more like civil celebrants like yourself. But out there, I don't necessarily think that it's always pastors that do it. So that's maybe not necessarily one of their kind of main aspects of their work. Anyway, we got chatting, and he said to me, "Oh," he said, "I just, you know, the structure you had was just terrific, and I loved the personalisation and the rituals you had." And he said, "I'm going to use some of that." Yeah. So there you go. Not only did you help me, but you helped some folk over there.
Aye, great. I know it seems so simple, but it's often, you know, that personal touch is kind of lacking a wee bit, and that structure, you know, it doesn't have a structure. What is it? It's just a party. People have come along and somebody's getting married in the middle of it. So, well, thank you so much. And what do you think of everything? You know, so the whole idea of making this wee testimonial video was for those people who are perhaps thinking of coming on and doing the one-to-one training with me online. What would you say to those people from your experience?
I think in terms of the career that these people want to embrace, I think it's a fantastic thing to do. I mean, you know, for me, it was friends obviously that were asking, and it was a great honour for me to do that. But I think whether they're friends or not, anybody asking you to marry them is wonderful. You know, there has to be something. There has to be some connection there, some trust for them to ask you in the first place. The experience that I had in terms of just getting prepared and really having it practiced was invaluable. And you know, I had no hesitation in asking you. I just knew you were going to be of great help to me, and that's proven to be the case. So you know, I think anybody who works with you is doing themselves a huge favour.
Thank you so much, Jim. It was so nice to chat with you again. Hopefully, once this lockdown is relaxed completely, we'll get that wee glass of wine that we keep talking about.
Yes, indeed.
And it was so nice. Thanks so much for doing this again, and let's chat soon.
Pleasure, Linda.
Okay, take care, Jim. Take care. Bye.